Okay, today we are doing rational equations. So rational equations. And today's date, 11/4/19. Rational equations are the same thing as what we've been doing. It's just rational is referring to either decimals or fractions. That's all it is. It's the exact same things we've already been doing. It's just adding, everything in here is going to be either adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, and it's going to be doing it with fractions or decimals. As you can kind of already see, some of these are pretty simple. So first thing you need to do, we go over the steps here. Here's the steps to solve an equation with decimals or fractions. They're exactly the same. Locate the variable. So we figure out where the variable is. We determine the operation tied to the variable. What's being done on the side with the variable so that we can use inverse operations to undo the work that's being done and then check it. So let's look at number 2, and let's look at the rules as we go, or the steps. Locate the variable. Here's the variable. It's a positive r. Determine the operation tied to the variable. What are they doing to the positive r? Well, we're adding 5.92 to r. Use the inverse operation to get rid of it. So I'm going to make this really big just so it's simpler to work with. So I need to subtract 5.92 to get rid of it. I want the r by itself. That's gone. I don't need to write the 0, but I can bring down the positive r. I'm going to subtract 5.92 on this side also. Remember, we do the exact same thing. Now I have to add a 0 here because I got 2 places past the decimal there. Let me fix this line. We've got 2 places past the decimal, so I need to add that 0 there. So now we need to subtract. Well, 0, I can't subtract 2 from 0, so I got to borrow. That's a 6. I carry the 1. 10 minus 2 is 8. And actually, I'm going to move that down because I want it more even with my r. 8. 6 minus 9, can't do that, so I have to borrow. That's 7. 16 minus 9, that's 7. Bring down my decimal, and I'm going to fix that 7 because it looks ugly. And my 8. Now I've got 7 minus 5. That's 2. 2.78 is equal to r. So we solved it. Now we need to check it. Now do it over to the right. Okay, I'm trying to get you guys to do things in a certain way, and that's the way I want it done so I can see what you're doing. We rewrite the original equation. 8.7 is equal to 5.92 plus r. Rewrite everything, and I take out the variable. 8.7 is equal to 5.92 plus, I take out the variable, put in parentheses. It's a terrible parenthesis right there. But I'm going to put in what I found out what r is. It's over here, 2.78. Okay? So, we bring everything down again. We're checking to make sure this side is the same as this side. I'm not done on this step. I've got to go ahead and add those 2 things together. So let's just add them together. This 8 plus 2, that's 10. Put down the 0, carry the 1. 9 plus 1 is 10. Plus 7 is 7. Carry the 1. 5 plus 2 is 7. Plus 1 is 8. And we the decimal moment right there. You could have done this over here too. Here's probably the right way to do it. 8 plus 2 is 0, carry the 1. 9 plus 7 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Bring down the decimal, carry the 1. 5 plus 1 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So we know those are equal to each other. So r is 2.78. Let's move on to number 4. Same thing. Where's the decimal? Here's the decimal. What's being done to the decimal? We're subtracting 4. How do we get rid of a subtracting 4? Or a negative 4? Well, we just add 4. Just do the opposite. When we're adding and subtracting, we do the opposite. Multiplying and dividing, we don't get this opposite sign. We keep the same sign when we're multiplying and dividing. But we have to do it to both sides of the equal sign. Now this one's going to be pretty simple. The 4 goes away, so I'm left with just x over here on the right, because this is gone. 3 plus 0 is 3. 8 plus 4 is, oops, I'm doing this wrong, because that's a negative. So what you got to do is when the signs are different, you still subtract. You still subtract because the signs are different. I got a negative and a positive. I still subtract, and then I keep the sign of the number with the greater absolute value, or the number that's farther from 0. So I know this number here, that is farther from 0 than positive 4. It doesn't matter which direction it is, just how far is it units-wise. So I can go ahead and subtract these, and I know my answer is going to be negative. 3 minus 0 is 3, 8 minus 4 is 4, and it's going to be a negative 4.3. Okay, so I can check this. I come over here, negative 8.3 is equal to x minus 4, write the exact same equation. Some of you are not writing the exact same equation. It's got to be exact. Rewrite it again, negative 8.3 is equal to, take out the variable, put in what I found x to be. And then I rewrite it again, negative 8.3. This negative 8.3 is not going to change. It shouldn't change, even though I still see people changing it just to make their answers match. That's not how that works. You cannot just change it to make it match. And then I combine these two numbers on the right, negative 4.3 and negative 4. The signs are the same. When the signs are the same, you add and keep the sign. So 4.3 plus 4.0. 3 plus 0 is 3, 4 plus 4 is 8, bring down the decimal, and I keep the sign. It's a negative 8.3, so guess what? It's a negative 8.3. It's right, so I know that's my answer. Okay? So hopefully these two examples make a lot of sense. Let's do one more. This one's pretty simple. Q minus 15.6 equals 32.9. Well, where's the variable? It's right there. It's Q. What's being done to it? We're subtracting 15.6. What is the inverse operation of subtraction? It's addition. So I'm going to add on both sides 15.6. That goes away. That's why we do it. We want to get rid of it. We do the opposite to undo it, to get rid of it. So now we have Q left, and then we just add this stuff together. 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry the 1. Bring that decimal down. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 5 is 8. 3 plus 1 is 4. So we end up with 48.5. Let's try it out. Double check it. So Q minus 15.6 is equal to 32.9. Let's rewrite the equation again. We're going to we take out the variable, substitute in the answer. Be a decimal up there too. And then we double check that right hand side. And I'm going to go ahead and do the work down here. 48.5 minus 15.6. You can do this to check, but I want it written like this. You can write it like this to check it, but write it the way it is up there. So 5 minus 6, I can't do that. So I cross that out and borrow. That leaves me a 7. 15 minus 6 is 9. Bring down the decimal. 7 minus 5 is 2. 4 minus 1 is 3, and we get 32.9 is equal to 32.9. Notice, nothing over here on this right-hand side changed. That 32.9 stayed the same. It never changed. The sign didn't change. The amount didn't change. It doesn't change unless you physically do an inverse operation to do something to it. So don't just change your answers to make them match. If you have to change an answer to make it match, you've done something wrong and you've immediately got the problem wrong. Okay? So here we are with a multiplication problem. We've got negative 3.75 equals negative 2.5r, and that negative 2.5 next to the r means multiplication. Always, 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 when you see a number directly next to a letter like that, it is always multiplication. Okay? There's never a time it's not. So, here's what we do. What's the opposite of multiplication? Division. Remember, division looks like a fraction. And we divide by whatever is in front of the variable. This whole thing is in front of the variable. Okay, so I divide by that whole thing. the negative 2.5. Negative 2.5. Okay? Because negative 2.5 divided by negative 2.5 gives me really a big, huge 1. Okay, it's 1r. I don't have to write the 1, okay, because I can see how many r's are right there. 1, there's 1r I just wrote. That's why we don't have to write it. Okay, we're making things simpler on ourselves. There's 1r. 1r has the value of whatever this is on the right. Now, what you may need to do is do negative 3.75 divided by negative 2.5. Let's make our life a little bit simpler to start with. A negative divided by a negative, positive. So I already know my answer is going to be positive, so I don't have to worry about the negatives now. Now I can do top dog goes in the house, 3.75. The other number goes outside. I'm not messing with the negatives because I already know my answer is going to be positive. I got to move the decimal over 1. Let me make this a little bit bigger, maybe not much bigger. And I put my decimal up. I don't want any decimals in my number that I'm dividing by. So I move that decimal over so there's no decimals out there. It's okay to have decimals in the doghouse, but not outside. 25 goes into 37 one time. 1 times 25 is 25. I subtract that. 7 minus 5 is 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. 25 does not go into 12, so I bring down the 5. I don't need that decimal. 25 goes into 125 times, 5 times. 5 times 25 is 125, and that's 0. So it's R is 1.5. Okay? So now we just need to check it. Rewrite the exact equation. Okay? Now rewrite it again. And this time I take out my decimal, put in the number I came up with, 1.5. Okay, it's a positive 1.5, so I don't have to put a sign there because it's positive. Then I go ahead and figure it out. 3.75, that obviously make sure that negative 3.75 does not change. Now I got to multiply 2.5 times 1.5. Negative times a positive. What's a negative times a positive going to give me? It's going to give me a negative answer. So now all I got to do is 2.5 times 1.5. 5 times 5 is 25. Carry the 2. 2 times 5 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. Put a 0. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 5 plus 0 is 5. 2 plus 5 is 7. 1 plus 2 is 3. And I bring my decimal down to there. Oops. Wrong. Don't do that. You don't bring it down on that. What you do is you count how many numbers are to the right of the decimal. So there's 1, 2. So I got to move my decimal 1, 2. So that gives me 3.75. So 3.75. Those are the same, so I know this is the correct answer. Okay. Let's go on down here to number 10. Now, where's the variable? It's right there. It's b. What's being done to b? Division. That's b divided by 5. Okay, fractions are little division problems. That's always going to be division. So what is the opposite of dividing by 5? It's multiplying by 5. So all you have to do, put a 5 there, put a 5 there. 5 divided by 5 becomes 1. So all I have left on this side is b. So now I got to figure out what 5 times 0.48 is. So I can do that down here. Let's do 0.48 times 5. 5 times 8 is 40. Put down the 0, carry the 4. 5 times 4 is 20. Put down the 4, carry the 2. There's nowhere to carry the 2, so I do that. And I've got 240, but I got 2 numbers to the right of the decimal, so I got to put 2 numbers to the right of the decimal. So I end up with 2.40 or just 2.4. Okay, so now I need to check my work. So over here I'm going to write the exact same thing. 0.48 is equal to b divided by 5. Then I'm going to write it again. 0.48 is equal to, and I take out my variable, put in parentheses because I know that's where I'm going to hide my answer. And Oops, not 5. 2.4. I don't need that 0 on the end. It's not adding anything or leaving anything. Divided by 5. Okay, so now I can check that. Top dog goes in the house. 2.4. Oops, dang it, I keep doing that. 2.4 divided by 5. I don't have any decimals outside the doghouse, so I'm okay. 5 goes into 24 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract that. 24 minus 20 is 4. Let's bring down a 0. 5 goes into 40. 8 times. Bring up my decimals, 0.48. So 0.48, and then after I divided 2.4 by 5, I end up with 0.48 or just 0.48. It's the same thing. Check. 2.4 is my answer. You could write 2.4 or 2.40. It doesn't matter. It's kind of like money, $2.40. The 0 is pennies. You have 0 pennies, so it's not adding anything to it. You could really say I have $2.4, right? Or $2.40. Same thing. Let's see. Go ahead and we'll do this last problem. I got 1.2, negative 1.2 is equal to y divided by 4.4. Well, what's being done to y? Division. We're dividing by 4.4. So what do we need to do? What's the opposite of division? We multiply. So I'm just going to put 4.4 up here. And I need to do the same thing over here. Put 4.4 over there. That becomes a big 1. So we end up with just y. Now we've got to multiply 4.4 times negative 1.2. So let's do it down here. 4.4 times negative 1.2. And let's do this. I already know a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative answer. So I don't have to mess with the signs anymore. Positive times a negative gives me a negative. So now I just multiply. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 4 is 8. Put down a 0 so I can move over 1. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 4 is 4. We get 8, 2, carry the 1, 5. Bring down the decimal, 52.8 is what we should end up with. Oops, and I did it again. I keep forgetting when I multiply, I have to count how many are to the right of the decimal, so it's 5.28. Man, even I get rusty at math sometimes. 5.28. Adding and subtracting, I keep the decimal there. Multiplying, I got to move the decimal however many places there are numbers to the right. So negative 5.28. So let's check it. Negative 1.2 is equal to y divided by 4.4. Need to rewrite it again. Negative 1.2 is equal to, put in our answer, 5.28. It's divided by 4.4. Now we can check it over here. Top dog goes in the house. 5.28. 4.4. I don't want anything to the right of the decimal outside, so I move it over 1. If I move 1 over there, I got to move 1 there. So my decimal goes right between the 2 and the 8, right above it. 44 goes into 52 one time. 1 times 44 is 44. Got to borrow, carry that. That's an 8. 5 minus 4, or 4 minus 4 is 0. 8, I got to bring down the 8. 44 goes into 88 2 times. 2 times 4.44. Oops, what am I doing? 2 times 44 is 88. So that's 0. So my answer is 1.2. And we already knew that our answer over here was a negative. Oops, I messed up right there. It should have been a negative 5.28. And we already know a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So it is negative 1.2. Because if you notice right there, I saw the 1.2 and thought, wait, I looked at that. In my mind, I wasn't saying it, but I was thinking, wait, I got a positive 1.2 and a negative 1.2. I made a mistake somewhere. See, that's what should get you thinking. If you get a positive answer, you don't just change it to negative right there. You check your answer. Why did I get the wrong answer? Well, I went back and thought, oh, okay, it's because this was negative, and I forgot to put that negative in when I did it. So I figured it out pretty quick. That's what you do. You don't just, here's what I see people doing, and I'm going to do it in red, so don't write this. We originally had negative 1.2 here, and I got 1.2. Remember, when I was looking over here, I was like, oh, I didn't get a negative. And here's what I see people do. They just go, oh, there, now they match. That's not what you do. I saw it. I didn't write it all out, but I kind of in my head was thinking, why do I have a negative 1.2 and a positive 1.2? I messed up somewhere. So don't just change signs because you want the problem to be done. If you're just changing signs because you want the problem to be done, you're going to get it wrong. Okay? Here's what I want you guys to do. Just do the odds on this sheet, okay? Just the odds on the front for now. So you need to do 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Actually, yeah, just worry about the ones on the front for now. Okay, so that will be your work for today. There is a homework sheet that you need to work on. You will do the odds on that. And once you are finished with that, then you may do Prodigy. So again, don't come ask me what you need to do, because here it is. You need to do the odds on the front of this sheet. Don't worry about the back. We'll worry about that maybe tomorrow. Just the odds on the front of this sheet, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and the odds on the homework. Okay? And once you're done with that, then you can do Prodigy.